Ambassador Huckabee, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
So you've been strong on Israel throughout your career as a governor, as a presidential candidate, but now that's your actual full-time job. How does it feel?
It's amazing. I never thought I would be here. Didn't expect this. Never talked to the president about it or asked him for it. But when he called me and told me, and he doesn't ask you, he tells you, and he said, Mike, you're going to be my ambassador to Israel. It was, as I like to say, an Isaiah moment. Here am I, Lord, send me. The best way I would say it is this. My wife and I were talking about, we've been here, I've been here over 100 times and brought a lot of people. And we'd be here 2 weeks and go home. And we looked at each other and I said to her, normally we talk about, well, we need to go home. This time we are home. This is home.
Beautiful. I want to wish you a lot of luck on this term. President Trump said recently that only 21 hostages are still alive. Do you think this is how their families need to find out about this?
I think that's the best guesstimate that both Israelis and the United States intelligence can provide. But all the hostages need to come home, all 59. It's a tragedy that they've been held for twice as long as the hostages were in Tehran back in 1979. The one entity that could end all of this, Hamas. A lot of people want to point fingers at the Israeli government or the American government or whoever they want to point a finger at, maybe the Egyptians or the Qataris. No, this is the result of one group of people, Hamas, and we never can forget that. We have to keep that focus on.
Yeah. And how do you feel, you're talking about Hamas, how do you feel about the U.S. engaging in direct negotiations with a terror organization, with Hamas?
It's not normal. It's not what we typically have done, but I think it demonstrates a sense of urgency. Let's get these hostages out. Of course, we feel, as the United States, a special obligation to get Americans out. But we feel an obligation, because Israel is our closest, most important ally, to get everybody out, the living and the dead. Because for Jewish people, and a lot of non-Jewish people may not understand this, but even if there is one of those hostages who has perished, their remains need to come home for a proper burial. And that's important. So we don't try to separate between the living and the deceased. All hostages matter, and we want them all home.
Yeah. The Houthis are still attacking Israel. Why has the U.S. stopped taking action?
It was really the Houthis who said, we'll stand down. They were getting battered. They were hitting our ships, and President Trump had had enough of it. So he started really hammering them hard. And they made the approach and said, just quit shooting us and we'll leave your ships alone. It really wasn't a deal. It is not a lack of engagement with Israel. And I think some people thought, well, how come we didn't make the deal that included Israel? Wasn't our deal to make? Certainly we want them to stop shooting everybody. What happened at Ben Gurion Airport last week was atrocious and could have been catastrophic had it just been a few hundred meters just east of where it hit. So we're all aware of how vulnerable people feel right now in Israel. But I don't think they should read into it that the United States has sort of walked away from Israel, abandoned them. None of that is true. I had a conversation just last night with both the president and the vice president. I certainly, part of the conversation was that 700,000 Americans live in Israel. 700,000. If the Houthis do something stupid, which they're continuing to do, and they hurt Americans, then it puts America into a position where it's not just a matter of saying we will support Israel. I mean, at that point, we don't have much choice but to engage all over again, but with a very abrupt and intense response.
Reports said that the U.S. discouraged or even blocked an Israeli attack on Iran. And in addition to that, there are Washington-Tehran talks, and it all sounds very different from what we've heard from President Trump before about Iran.
America's not said to Israel, stand down, don't do this. Look, we respect Israel. It's a sovereign nation. They have a responsibility to do what is best for their people. It would be incredibly out of the ordinary, under this administration, under President Trump, for us to tell Israel what they were going to do.
President Trump said that under his leadership, Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. Yeah. But can we trust Iran? Is deterrence enough?
You can't trust Iran, but you can trust Donald Trump. President Trump, you can trust, and here's what he has said repeatedly. Iran is not going to have a nuclear weapon. This very day, while we're doing this interview, President Trump said on an American national radio program, he said that Iran has to give up their nuclear ambitions. They have to give up their reactors and centrifuges. They can either be blown up nicely or they can be blown up viciously. Now, I don't know how you get any clearer than that.
I want to ask you, what message are Israel's enemies getting from the way the U.S. is handling Iran, Hamas, Houthis, and is the United States, our best, most important, most cherished ally, is leaving Israel to fight this war alone?
No, I mean, keep in mind that the U.S. is supplying F-35s. We're supplying missiles, the THAAD missile defense system. We have not stopped any arms sales. In fact, we accelerated it. A lot of people don't know this. Probably in Israel they don't know. Under the Biden administration, they stopped selling a lot of the things that we had an agreement with. It wasn't just that we wouldn't sell them new things. We weren't giving them what they'd already paid for. In his first week in office, President Trump reversed that. The flow started again. Israel isn't getting it for free. They're buying it. But we unlocked that vault and said, here.
And I have to say, this is amazing. And that's why I call the U.S. our most cherished ally. Really, the bond is so strong. But it seems like in the end, we're getting Obama-style deal with Iran 2.0.
No, we're not at all. And I'll tell you some big distinctive differences. Under the JCPOA, Iran was sort of trusted to do the right thing. Some inspectors would come in, but they really didn't have the authority to inspect everything. When President Trump said he will have talks, he did not say that he would compromise on nuclear aspiration. What people need to read into this is something very simple. He would like to avoid an all-out war that may not be contained. I mean, if it was just the U.S. and Israel attacking Iran, okay. But what if it starts involving all the other Gulf states and Iranians shoot at Saudi Arabia and the UAE and other Gulf partners? Then they have no choice but to get in the middle of it. It could result in something that is a bigger fire than we can put out. So I think the president is legitimately saying to Iran, look, you need to give up your aspirations and ambitions to be a nuclear power. If you don't, then we reserve the right to destroy everything about it. He's never wavered from that. So the purpose of the negotiation, would it be that maybe the Iranians would come to their senses? Hey, for 46 years they haven't.
The Abraham Accords were a landmark achievement on Trump's first term. Do you think that normalization efforts with Saudi Arabia will bear fruit?
I do, because it's in the best interest of the Saudis and Israel to work toward a partnership. Everybody wins, economically, militarily. It's a good opportunity for all the nations of the region to realize Israel is not your enemy. We're seeing the benefit of that with the UAE. Well, what a bold thing they did.
I've heard President Trump speak very warmly about the president of Turkey, the same leader who is threatening Israel and was even talking about its destruction. And I have to say, I was really concerned. Is Washington trying to mediate between Jerusalem and Ankara?
Yeah, and I think you've got to understand the president's normal process of things. He can have a warm personal relationship with someone, but disagree with their policy to the point that he'll punch them right in the face over it. Let me give you an example. President Trump sat down with Vladimir Putin. He says, you know, I can get along with Putin. He sat down with Xi Jinping. He said, I can get along with the president of China. He sat down with Kim Jong-un, had a conversation with him. He can talk to anybody, and he will. And he knows that if you go in to have a meeting with someone that you're at odds with, you don't go in and say, I want to go see this bum, and I'm going to tell this bum exactly what I think. Because what you've done is you've created an atmosphere in which nothing positive is going to happen. So you open the door with a friendly, cordial, relationship building. Then behind closed doors, you get down to the serious issues and you lay it out.
And finally, President Trump has promised a major announcement. Can you give us a hint?
Well, I think everybody in Israel feels, well, it's got to be about the Middle East. It doesn't. He's told everyone, all the ambassadors, we have 3 goals, big goals in terms of the administration: make America safer, make it more secure, and make it more prosperous. I think what you're seeing is a president who is focused on that. Doesn't mean that he isn't focused on the Middle East and Israel, because he is, and he's coming to the region mostly for economic summits and economic announcements that are going to be made in Saudi, Qatar, and the UAE. But I wouldn't want people in Israel to say, oh, did he snub us? No, he didn't snub you. Prime Minister Netanyahu has spent more time with Donald Trump in the last 3 months than I have. He has been to the White House more than any other world leader. They've been on the phone more than any other world leaders have spoken. The idea that somehow that there's this distancing, total nonsense.
You know, they had their ups and downs. You got to admit that.
But they're friends, and friends speak frankly to each other. Doesn't mean friends agree on everything. But there is a real bond, and I mean a real bond, a friendship between the Prime Minister and President Trump. And, you know, you can see it when they meet, but more importantly, you can see it in the policies that go forth.
Ambassador Huckabee, thank you so much for this interview, and good luck.
Thank you. I'll need it.